In the course of the last 2 decades, the relationship between the three major powers of the heartland, the heart of the earth, changed radically. Iran, Russia, and China have fully understood that union and cooperation are the only means for mutual reinforcement. The need to fight a common problem, represented by a growing American influence in domestic affairs, has forced Tehran, Beijing, and Moscow to resolve their differences and embrace a unified strategy in the common interest of defending their sovereignty, such as the war in Syria, the bombing of Libya, the overthrowing of the democratic order in Ukraine, sanctions against Iran, and the direct pressure applied to Beijing in the South China Sea, have accelerated integration among nations that in the early 1990s had very little in common. Analyzing U.S. economic power, it is clear that supranational organizations like the World Trade Organization, International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank guarantee Washington's role as the economic leader. The pillars that support the centrality of the United States in the world economy can be attributed to the monetary policy of the Fed and the function of the dollar as a global reserve currency. The Fed has unlimited ability to print money to finance further economic power of the private and public sector, as well as to pay the bill due for very costly wars. The US dollar plays a central role as the global reserve currency, as well as being used as currency for trade. This virtually obliges each central bank to own reserves in US currency, continuing to perpetuate the importance of Washington in the global economics. Accompanying the important economic integration is strong military strategic cooperation, which is much less publicized. Events such as the Middle East wars, the coup in Ukraine, and the pressure exerted in the South China Sea have forced Tehran, Moscow, and Beijing to conclude that the United States represents an existential threat. In each of the above scenarios, China, Russia, and Iran have had to make decisions by weighing the pros and cons of an opposition to the American model. The Ukraine coup d'état brought NATO to the borders of the Russian Federation, representing an existential threat to Russia, threatening as it does its nuclear deterrent. In the Middle East, the destruction of Iraq, Libya, and Syria has obliged Tehran to react against the alliance formed between Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and the United States. In China, the constant pressure on South China Sea poses a serious problem in case of a trade blockade during a conflict. In all these scenarios, American imperialism has created existential threats. It is for this reason natural that cooperation and technological development, even in the military area, have received a major boost in recent years. In the event of an American attack on Russia, China, and Iran, it is important to focus on what weapons systems would be used and how the attacked nations could respond. Certainly, U.S. naval force place a serious question mark over the defense capabilities of nations like Russia, China, and Iran, which strongly depend on transit via sea routes. Let us take, for example, Russia and the Arctic transit route, of great interest not only for defense purposes but also being a quick passage for transit goods. The Black Sea for these reasons has received special attention from the United States due to its strategic location. In any case, the responses have been proportional to the threat. Consequences of this process have sealed the destiny of the United States, not only as a response to her quest for supremacy but also because of her efforts to maintain her role as the sole global superpower. As noted in previous articles, during the Cold War the aim for Washington was to prevent the formation of a union between the nations of the heartland, who could then exclude the US from the most important area of the globe. With the fall of the Iron Curtain, sights were set on an improbable quest to conquer the heartland nations with the intent of dominating the whole world. The consequences of this miscalculation have led the United States to being relegated to the role of mere observer, watching the unions and integrations occurring that will revolutionize the Eurasian zone and the planet over the next 50 years. The desperate search to extend Washington's unipolar moment has paradoxically accelerated the rise of a multipolar world.